in a property transaction, there's what we call a transfer duty. Who actually pays the transfer duty? Who actually is responsible to pay the transfer duty? Is it the seller or is it the buyer? Stay with us as we break down what transfer duty is and who actually is responsible to pay it. This is Tabang Manenje. In this channel, as you know, we discuss all things real estate, all things finance. So let's get to it, shall we? So a transfer duty, what actually is it? It's actually a tax that is paid to SARS on the transfer of a property, right? So this is often confused with what you call the transfer cost, which is a fee that is paid to the attorney to actually do the transfer from the buyer to the seller, right? But a transfer duty is only payable for properties that are more than R1 million. So if the property that you're actually purchasing is less than R1 million in actually the value, then you are not subjected to actually pay this property, right? But remember that a transfer duty and transfer cost is two different things, right? The transfer cost is the cost that you will pay the attorney that will actually do the transfer of your property from the seller to you now as the new buyer. But what happens is that you will still have to pay the transfer cost. But if the property, like I said, is below R1 million, then you are not subjected to pay the transfer cost, right? So who actually pay this transfer duty, right? And who will handle this payment to SARS, right? So the person that is responsible to pay the transfer duty is you as the purchaser, right? But the lawyer or the transferring attorney or the conveyancer which is handling this payment, this whole transaction will have to pay this on your behalf, right? Because they will break down some cost which will include the transfer fee which you pay directly to them. In that cost, they will include what we call a transfer duty, which is a percentage of what is determined by SARS for a property that is more than R1 million, right? And they should pay this within the 6 months of the acquisition of the property. If they don't do this, or if you don't do this, you'll be subjected to penalties by SARS. And you know how SARS is good at that, right? But there are some instances where you are exempted from paying transfer duty depending on the transaction that you are having in terms of the property transfer, right? The first one is marriage in community of property. So who knew? Married in community of property is not that all bad, right? So if you are married in community of property, or if you marry someone in community of property, the spouse and you own a property, the spouse that you are married to will automatically own 50% of that property, because that is how in community of property actually works. But in this case, they will not have to pay what we call the transfer duty. So it's just a free ride. Who knew? Okay, and the second one is what we call divorce. So as you know, the transfer duty will not apply if the spouse that is actually awarded the property with a divorce order, it will not really apply. So there will not be a payment of transfer duty that that person will have to do, right? And then when we come to the next one, the inheritance, right? If somebody inherits a property, a beneficiary or whatever, they will not be liable to pay the transfer duty of the inherited from the deceased estate, right? So that also another exemption. And the last one, and not the least, is a cancelled transaction. Okay, when it comes to this, if the property is the property transaction or the property purchase is cancelled before the transfer is registered with the deeds office, there will not be liability of transfer duty. But the condition is the SARS must check that the actually cancellation of that transaction was actually legitimate, right? Remember, this is the channel where we talk all things real estate, all things finances, so that you don't become the passenger of your financial life, but you become the driver. So it is very much important for you to be clear in terms of understanding some costs that are associated with buying a property, and this is one of them, what we call a transfer duty, right? So if you have any questions, any further questions that you would like to understand in terms of this, please you can comment on the comment section below. And please guys, don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video so that more people can have access to this information. Cheers. I will see you in the next one.